How's it going? My name is Gio with the Cyber Studies YouTube channel and the Learn with Hack the Box series. On today's episode, we're going to do a brief walkthrough on the Pursue the Track CTF event from last year's Cyber Apocalypse CTF. So covering topics like things like the master file table or the MFT and some record analysis on an incident in this fictional scenario. So without further delay, let's dig into this challenge. All right, so here I am in the Cyber Apocalypse workshops from the previous year. This is a private room, so I don't think you're gonna have access to this. However, you can actually go into the Hack the Box labs, go into the Sherlocks, and there's a BFT room that you can do that's very similar to this in nature. We actually covered it in a previous video in the Learn with Hack the Box series. You're more than welcome to go there and try that one out, but with this one, you're gonna just kind of see how it goes. All right, so we're gonna dig inside of the Pursue the Tracks. So we have, ooh, cool little fictional event here. So this is Pursue the Tracks. Lux, leader of the freaks, immerses himself in the depths of computers, tirelessly pursuing the secrets of the files he has obtained, accessing an opposing faction member's workstation. With unwavering determination, he scours through data, putting together fragments of information, trying to take some advantage on the other factions. To get the flag, we need to answer the questions from the Docker instance. So we're going to have to go through and spawn our Docker box here. Let this thing spin up for a second. We're going to get our IP and our port numbers, and then we're going to have either, if you have access to the Pwn box with Hack the Box, you can use that, or we're going to spin up our own lab and then be able to dig into that here in a second. All right, so what I've done is I launched that Docker machine. I've gone into my VMware hypervisor, and I set up my Linux machine. Now, all I'm using this for exclusively is to run the netcat scan. So I'm going to go through and run that command. So I just copied it from the website there, and then I'm going to paste it into this. This is just the IP address with that port. And then we're then presented with the same information before in our fictional event. But now we're prompted with a question that gets us into our actual capture the flag event. So it's going to say, files are related to 2 years. Which are those? And then, for example, 1993 or 1995 are just some of those examples. So what we're going to do then is we're now going to take that. We're then going to download the file from the website and then dig into our analysis box, our forensics box. Now, I myself am a big Windows user. I'm actually very keen on using Flare VM, and I do download the Eric Zimmerman tool. So if you can get those few things downloaded into your lab, we're going to jump over to that box here in a second, and we're going to dig into this file. All right, so now that I'm in my Windows virtual machine here, this is where I do all my forensic stuff in. We're gonna wanna dig into the file that we downloaded. So we're gonna pull that up here. And this is the MFT file. So this is going to allow us to go through and parse this through like a comma separated value layout. Everything is kind of laid out there with all our file sizes, our names, our dates, what have you. A lot of good information in here. Everything is stored in this one spot. Now we are going to want to dig into the actual file itself, but we want to make it a little bit more presentable, more human readable. There are a bunch of tools out there. I do like the Eric Zimmerman tools just because he kind of, consolidates everything to one nice, sweet, easy, usable suite. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open that up. We're going to navigate to our directories already there. And then we're going to want to dig into, what do we got here? So we're going to do, So we're going to do MFTE. So this is going to be your MFT Explorer command. And then we're going to want to point that to a file. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to our, our folder here. I'm going to right click this and copy the path. And so basically we're pointing the actual executable at that file right there. And then we're going to want to do the file format of CSV. So it's gonna be a little bit more human readable as opposed to how it is currently as it stands. And then I'm going to put this in my, let's just do like C temp. So let's just do that. And what I'm going to do here is it's going to crunch it. It's going to say, hey, we've gone through. We've then converted that file into a .csv. So then we should be able to navigate, where are we at here? To our PC. And then in our temp folder, we now have our new CSV. Now we can open this up as is, and whatever our default CSV file is, whether it's Explorer or Excel. In this case, I am going to try to use Explorer. So let me open it up there. Think of this kind of as like a very stripped down Microsoft Excel. So there are more features to it, but basically it just allows you to manipulate your .csvs and other cool little widgets and gizmos in there. But what we're going to do is we're going to open up our ctemp, the MFT thing that we modified into a .csv. So this should just make it a little bit more human readable, a little bit more organized to go through and kind of organize its stuff here. And everything is laid out. Now what's really nice about this is there are other tools out there that will work with this. I think it's like MFT Explorer, Command, what have you. There's a bunch of them. However, some of them actually do hide natively the file names, the file sizes. There's a few things in there that is kind of left in. So I find a lot of success with Timeline Explorer. Now, the first question we had in our challenge back at our Cali box was files are related to 2 years. Which are those two? Or which are those? So we're going to kind of dig into what we have here in our Windows box, and we're going to look for, we're going to look for file names. We do have some information in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight this column, and then we're going to do a little bit of filtering. So you can, however you want to do it, there's different ways you can go about this, but each column has its own little filter option on the top right. And since this is a shorter, it's only 46 lines, I don't feel it's really necessary to go through and do a lot of filtering there. What we can do is we can kind of go through and just kind of see anything that jumps out at us. So we can open this up a little bit. And we can kind of scroll through it. Now, the idea here is we are looking for years according to the CTF questions. So just right off the rip, I see 2023 and 2024. Let's just see if there's anything else in there. That does not seem to be the case. So with that, we can go ahead and try those two and see if that gives us what we're looking for. So we can go back into our Cali box there, and it's going to say for that, what are our 2 years? 2023, comma separated, 2024. And we have a correct. It's our first flag right off the rip. So the next question's in here, and this one's a little bit harder to read because this is that purple and black background. But it says, there are some documents. Which is the name of the first file written? For example, randomname.pdf. So we're looking for some sort of, not system file per se, but more of an actual document, something that's maybe human generated or something that's more interactive in that way. So we're going to dip back into our Timeline Explorer here. We're going to go all the way over, and I think in this particular use case, it is asking for like the first one being made. It makes more sense to me to do a sort by on the created type. So we're gonna go through here. We have 21 going back down 22. So let's go back this way. So this is top to bottom, earliest to oldest there. And let's see here. We are going to go back to our file name based off of created type sorted. And so we're just gonna, again, go back through here. Not a lot of information in this particular MFT file, because I think it's more about, spinning the wheels, getting things, acquainted with. We're kind of getting familiar with the tool set here. So we're gonna kind of go down through our file name. We're seeing a couple different items in the file name column here in this section. And we're just looking for anything that's probably like a PDF, a PowerPoint, a Word document, anything like that. And right off the rip, I'm seeing things like right here. Okay. So the first item that I see off the rip here is final_annual_report.xlsx. So this is a Excel document, Microsoft Excel document, right there. So that is what we are looking at. So final annual report. So let's do that. Let's try it here. Did it take? Fire. Cool. Rock on. Sweet. All right. So yeah, and I was trying to make sure as case sensitive. I'm not 100% sure if it is or not, but you don't want to miss it because it's not case sensitive. All right. All right. Moving on. So we do have another one here. It says, which file was deleted? For example, randomname.pdf. So this one actually should be really easy. So we should be able to go into our MFT and under, which column is it? What do we got here? There's a flag. It should be called like in use. Cool, rock on, yeah. Okay, so this one right here in between where it says parent path and parent sequence number, right in the middle there, it's gonna say in use. Now, with this one, again, it's only 46 lines. Typically it's a little bit larger, but in this particular use case, it's very convenient. We can just scroll through the list here, and if there's any of them that is unchecked, it means it's just been deleted here. So in this particular case, we have an item that resides in the parent path. And we are looking at market_plan.xlsx. So again, another one of those Excel documents. And then I want to make sure I'm just being case sensitive. So we're just going to do that again. XLSX. Oh, did I misspell it? Marketing plan. That will do it. And I can't tell you how many times where I've done that. Where I'm just like knocking my head on a problem, don't know what it is, end up just misspelling it. Okay, all right, so this one says, which is the file name of the important text file that was created? So we can actually go and dig back into Timeline Explorer. We kind of did everything in there. Just for the sake of something that's a little bit different, I wanted to go ahead and launch up MFT Explorer. So I went ahead and navigated there, and then we can go ahead and just launch that right there. And so what this is going to do is going to open up a new GUI interface of MFT Explorer. Now this is just a little bit different. It's kind of the same concept, but what's nice about this one is that this one does show a little bit more of like a visual representation as opposed to like a CSV, a comma separated value. This one kind of gives you more of like a visual representation of what we're looking at here. So we're going to click the same exact one, and you're going to see here it's going to kind of open it up. I'm going to try to, it's a little bit larger if I can, or else it kind of defeats the whole point. So it doesn't look like we can, and that's a little frustrating. But however, what I can kind of show you here, if you get the gist of it, is that we are seeing a more visual representation of what our MFT looks like. So if you look here on the side pane, you'll be able to see all of our directories kind of opened up here like a tree setup. So with this here, we're looking for a .txt. And again, because this particular example has a lot less information in it than a typical MFT would, you can do some filtering off here on the side with the search, the magnifying glass. But we can actually dig into different directories here. So we do have like the years that we were looking at before. And this is what's nice about it. You can see these documents where they would actually be as opposed to just nested somewhere into a system directory. But under here, under documents, we do have something called credentials.txt. So we could dig into it, but that's probably the one we're looking for. So we can navigate back over to our Kali instance here, endils.txt. And what that one was pretty easy. A file was also copied, which is the new file name. For example, we're looking at that random name.pdf. So let's just go in here, and this is that. But let's go back into our Timeline Explorer. And with this one, what's nice about it is it has everything listed out, every single item in this MFT. And then we should be able to find a column, if I'm not mistaken, that just shows a copied attribute. So you'll see in here at the very last column, it's kind of tucked in here on the right side here. It's all the way in here. And then we're going to look for anything that's kind of checked or filled in. And then if we don't see that, we can actually just go to the top. We can click that little filter option, and we can do the copied value. So we do that, and then in there. So we do have one that is checked, and then we're going to pivot over. So that's our second to last line there. We're going to pivot over here to the left. And then this one has a nifty name known as Financial Statement Draft XLSX. So financial statement draft. So let's pivot back over there. Let's throw that in real quick. Cool. Rock on. Easy peasy. All right. Which file was modified after creation? For example, random name.pdf. So this is a similar thing. So when was modified after creation? Let's dig back into our Windows box. To prove that you don't need a lot of really fancy tools, I actually open it up in Microsoft Excel. So I kind of alluded to this before. But what you can actually do is you can open up your CSV. It'll go through and it'll show you how you want to format everything. Just make sure you're clicking the right things. It's pretty self-explanatory. And what we're going to have here is the same exact setup, very similar to Timeline Explorer and all the other goodies. Now, this is kind of spread out. A lot of information is all over the place. I did zoom in like 190% just so you can see it on the screen. What we're going to do here is we're actually going to take the created, where is it at here? We're going to create a formula that takes the created time and the last modified time. and show us something that's a differential. Now, these numbers look kind of odd here. You click on them, you can actually see here in the filter bar, you might not be able to, but the filter bar itself actually shows the date itself. So we have a value here that actually should match the last modified. When it was created and modified, the number should be the same. Now what we're looking for is one that has a little bit of a differential. So I just did a quick Google search on finding an Excel formula to compare two columns and do a match and a mismatch. So all we're going to do is we're going to go to our last column here that's being used. So in this case, it's going to be Alpha Hotel, AH, and we're just going to click the entire column. And once we click that entire column, we can then go to the formula bar at the top. And I'm going to go ahead and just paste that in there. And then what we need to do is we need to actually give our formulas values of the columns we're comparing. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll back over here to our created column, which is Tango or T. And then the other one we're going to be comparing it against is Victor or V. So we're going to go back to our formula here at the top, and then we're going to modify that to do Tango colon Tango. This takes the entire row, and you'll see it actually kind of messes up a smidge because it's going to include that that header at the top. So you have your column header there. So we're going to have that row, that column, and then we're going to do the one next to it. We said it was Victor, so Victor colon Victor. We now have these two columns here. Now when we go to finalize that formula, it's going to create a new column at the very end. And that's going to have our mismatch and match. It's like just a simple if formula. Now what we're going to do is we're going to then select our new AH column, and then we're going to go into our, where is it at? Our sort and filter option. We're going to add filter, and what that's going to do is that's going to allow us to actually go through and take our H column, did it not take? Our H column, and allow us to sort it out. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go through and do our differential. So as I mentioned, we will get a few false positives in here, but again, because of the amount of items here, it's not a whole headache of a problem. It takes it down tremendously. So we're going to go back in here, and we want to go in between our created, our Tango column here, and our last modified Victor column here. Now you can actually eyeball, there's a few of them that were, like I said, included that were false positives. So we're comparing here like this and this. Those are actually the same numbers, but because there were other values that it compared against, we're going to have those included in there. But if we actually just go down the list here, we can actually find pretty quickly that this one here and then this one here are different. There's a differential there. And so we can actually scroll over and see what our file names are. And so the first one we were looking at was just the file directory, the folder name itself. So it's saying, hey, this one says 2024, and then this one did not. And then the next thing it compares it to is project_proposal.pdf. So we should be able to dive into our virtual machine and see if that works. So project_proposal.pdf. Cool, that's another win there. So the next one here says, what is the name of the file located at record number 45? For example, randomname.pdf. So we're looking for another document style answer here with an extension. And it says, what is the name of the file located at record number 45? So let's pivot back to let's just go to that Excel that we were just looking at a minute ago here. And also this one should be pretty simple. So let's go to the entry name on the left here. And then we just scroll down here to number 45. That's row 40 here. And then we are given annual_report.xlsx. So we can try that one really quick. All right, easy enough. What is the size of the file located of record number 40? For example, 1337. So this one, again, should be just as easy. So let's pivot back into our Excel document here. Said number 40. All right, let's scoot on over here. So it should be row 35. And then we are looking here. So let's lock that here. So we have file size, and it's going to be 57344. So 57344. Sick. All right, and that was actually the last one. It's cool. So what happens is once we've done that, we're then granted the flag, which is hack the box HTB squigglies MFT underscore parsing underscore is underscore really underscore useful. So MFT parsing is really useful. So there you have it. This is the MFT, or the Master File Table Parsing and Analysis course on this. It's really crucial when it comes to these digital forensics, because it's allowing you to get important information off the metadata that's stored on these NTFS systems on Windows. And it allows you to see, like you saw today, anything from like file names, file sizes, locations, timestamps, what have you. Really going to help with your investigation and kind of get you moving and going. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoy this year's Capture the Flag event, and I'll see you in the live stream.